Hello and welcome to today's episode of Activating Magic. I'm here with the fabulous Teresa Lodato. Welcome.
So happy to be here with you, Darla.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for saying yes. I know you've been busy and popular and hot right now, so I'm just delighted to get to talk with you. Teresa and I met at an event about a year ago, I would say. And she started talking about the way her intuition guides her and how she helps her clients and connection with horses and all of that. And I thought, we need to get you on here. So thanks for saying yes.
Thank you for having me.
So I'll just share a little bit about Teresa. Teresa understands being successful in life does not always equate to being fulfilled. And I bet people are like nodding their heads right now. As a former financial services specialist with over 20 years at a top Wall Street firm, Teresa knows the importance of embracing a new paradigm of leadership to create impact and legacy. Known as the modern day oracle, she is best known for her keen insight and ability to quickly identify and neutralize the root cause of challenges holding women back from stepping into empowered, heart-led leadership. Her exceptional breadth and depth of expertise includes a master's level background in psychology, advanced certifications in neuroscience, relational trauma, and psychology of negotiation. Ooh. As an elite transformation coach, author, and TEDx speaker, her mission is to transform the lives of women leaders and is fueled by writing and speaking engagements, reaching thousands of people every year with her message of hope and healing. And of course, bridging science and spirituality, which I'm excited to talk about today.
My favorite topic.
Yeah. So, Teresa, I want to just start with how did you find your way from financial services into what I'll call the world of magic?
Well, I've been intuitive my whole life. However, I denied it. I was having experiences even when I was a teenager and was not raised in a family that was very open to it. My grandmother was open to it, and everyone kind of accepted that my grandmother was psychic, but my mother denied it. She always thought, "Oh, who are you to be so special? Who do you think you are?" type of vibes. And my grandmother had passed away when I was a teenager, and I didn't have anyone to talk with. So it completely freaked me out when I started having precognitive visions, waking visions of, experiences. I shut it down. I shut it down as much as I could. And
When you say you always knew you were intuitive, was that showing up even before your grandma passed? Like you
oh
had,
yeah, when I was 4 years old, I remember my mother was. Remember those old landline plugs in the wall? My mother was super handy, and she had the plug off the cover off the plug, and she was trying to figure out which wires went to which, and it wasn't the standard red, black, white that is in, whatever the colors are for electrical that shows, positive, negative, or however it's
Mhm.
wired. Here I was 4 years old, and I walked in, asked my mom what she was doing, and she told me. And I said, well, the green one goes here, and the yellow one goes here, and the black one goes here. And she's like, okay, how do you know that? And I said, I just do. I said, why don't you go check one of the other plugs? And she went and pulled off another cover, and it was exactly as I said. So, I mean, for me, it was just like, isn't this what everyone knows? It took me a long time to realize
Oh,
that, yeah, no, not everybody knows the things that I know. So I'd known from a very young age. When my father passed away, he came and visited me in a dream the night that he passed away.
mm.
So I had that relationship, and just, I mean, I could recount so many different experiences that I had that once again, I just thought were normal until I
Yeah.
got to be probably in like middle school age. And I started realizing, yeah, not everybody knows the things I know. So
Do you know your human design?
I just had that done recently. There was a woman who interviewed me for a podcast, and I am a generator.
Mhm.
That's about all I know. I'd have to go back and check my chart, but with astrology, I know just enough to be dangerous
Uh-huh.
in astrology and have a lot of apparently intuitive signs. So, I mean, it's pretty much everywhere around me. But
Sure.
back to what I was saying, it's I had shut down my intuition.
Mhm.
And even though I used it in college, so I studied finance, I was planning on going into financial services. And there was a stock market game that we played against other colleges. And I came in 2 weeks late for some reason. I think I must have been out of town or something. And I came back and realized they had this contest going on or this challenge. And so I chose my stocks all intuitively. And I ended up winning the stock market game against several colleges based on my intuition. And that's not the first time that that's happened. I've played in fantasy football leagues and used my intuition and won. So it's something I
Was
always had.
was that why you went into finance?
It was not. The reason I went into finance was my father had his own advertising agency and he was highly successful. Everyone, talked about him, said he was on his way to becoming a millionaire back in the 70s. So that was really saying something. And within 6 months, he had developed pancreatic cancer and passed away.
Mm.
And he had not done a succession plan. He had not done, he didn't have any life insurance. And so we went from being a very wealthy family to almost being on food stamps. And that was
Mm.
really the impetus for me getting into financial services is I didn't want other people to face the things that I faced as a child and my mother
Mm.
faced as a family. And I thought, you know what, if I can go in and develop financial plans, talk to
Mm.
people and get them prepared for their business, then that would be worthwhile. That would be
Mm.
an experience. So that's how I got into financial services.
I bet you use some of that today.
Use a lot of it, yes.
So what was did you have one of those wake up calls or dark nights of the soul that had you change course?
Yeah, so when I was in financial services, I was also in a really difficult marriage. We had had a son, and it was kind of that constant battle of, do I stay? Do I go? I've now since found out that my ex is toxic. He's a narcissist, which explains so much about our relationship. But during that time when I was working in private banking investments at Merrill Lynch, I was extremely stressed out between the marriage, between the long hours I was working. I was waking up at 3:45 in the morning. I was hopefully getting to bed by 10, but that's
Mhm.
not nearly enough sleep for me. I've had migraines my whole life, and I developed a rare and serious form of migraine that causes stroke-like symptoms. And
Mm.
that's what ended up ending my career is I just, my system just completely blew out. I
Wow.
was blacking out. I was having these stroke-like symptoms. I couldn't drive. And so it ended my career. And I think that is really, a lot of people talk about the dark night of the soul. For me, that was really my wake up call to say, you know what, Teresa, you're not in alignment. The reason you're working in private banking investments is to make money so you can divorce your husband. It wasn't because it was really aligned with who I
Yeah.
was. Now, when I was a financial advisor, it was aligned. It was aligned with my values, obviously, making sure that other people didn't suffer what we suffered and offering financial planning. But definitely when I stepped into the private banking investments, it was definitely for money. There was really no value alignment other than that, providing me freedom and security. So when I burned out from my career, it really was that time of, okay, now what? Now what do I
Mm.
do? And I remember getting back in like that period of not having to work and being able to take care of my body and really tune in and listen to my body, which was such a gift because that's what I had been ignoring my whole life.
Mm.
Was listening to the messages and just, I was raised to be a type A workaholic type woman. And that is what got me sick in the first place. And so
Mhm.
when I got sick and was recovering, it was really about getting back in touch with me. And through that process, attending grad school, studying psychology was the perfect opportunity for me to really explore, do some deep reflection, develop some healthier habits, understand what was happening. And during that period of time, I started my Reiki healing journey. And so I became a Reiki master and then later a Karuna Reiki master and angelic Reiki master,
And
studied.
how did you decide that?
I was training for the Avon Walk for breast cancer, and had met a woman, this Irish woman. She is so phenomenal. And we would chat on the walks. And it was during the time when I was thinking, after I'd gotten sick, I was like, I need to divorce my husband. I mean, he didn't come and visit me in the hospital when I was in there for 5 days. He didn't bring my young son. I mean, it was just like, it's over. I need to get out. And so I was talking to her about, gosh, I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I've been really interested in doing Reiki. Maybe you'd like to do some Reiki classes with me. And we started doing Reiki classes. We'd travel to Sedona, and we went all the way through the Karuna Reiki master level teachings together. And that I think was so beneficial for so many different reasons, but it also reawakened my gifts in a new way. It gave me that
Mhm.
access of connecting back to my body. And I realized that my gifts had never fully been gone, but I was just repressing them. And so, throughout my journey and becoming a coach and et cetera, everything that I've done since has just reawakened everything. And I mean, gosh, I'm can't believe that I'm back to where I was in high school, except even better with all of my gifts. And
Mm.
it was the journey of healing. And it's something that I help other women to do now because it's
Yeah.
it's so important that we're connected with ourselves and connected with our gifts and are in value alignment so that we can move forward and experience that success without all the stress.
Yes. I'm about to lead a retreat called Activate Your Next Level Magic. And, whatever I'm going to teach or facilitate, the main thing that I know will happen is people will be in a room where it's safe to explore and to talk about and compare notes and be validated. So I'm just imagining you at that time going, wait, I'm gifted at this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the thing that I've noticed, and I think this is why the work that I do is so important to me, so aligned with my values, is recognizing stress and the impact that stress has on our lives. And more importantly, the impact stress has on accessing our gifts. And so for me, obviously, there was a lot of stress that was going on in relationship and work hours. And, I had a young son at home that I was trying, that I adore, that I wanted to spend as much time with, and trying to balance all of that. And what I've learned is that each of us has this invisible stress inside of us, and it's made up of things like decision fatigue, mental load, just all that constant chatter that we have in our heads. Oh, I've got to make sure that I go to the store for this, or I've got to make sure that my child has this appointment coming up, or, there's just
Yeah.
constant, all this stuff that we hold in our heads. And then on top of it, it's all the beliefs that we were raised with that are now limiting us. So we have our saboteurs and I like to call them allies in disguise because they once helped us, but now
Right.
they're kind of out of whack. And so all
Yeah.
of this creates stress in our bodies, and that prohibits us from getting clear access to our intuition. But when you have clear access to your intuition, your life is bountiful. It is so, gosh, it's just surprising. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you reach for things and you have confidence to reach for things because your intuition is saying, yes, do this, step forward, even when your logic is saying, I don't know how this is going to get done.
Yeah.
But when you
How has
step,
life changed?
oh my gosh, oh,
I feel
it,
like we don't talk enough about this, right?
yeah.
Like it's so common to talk about this, the pain story and the limiting belief, but like I find people forget to celebrate how life can become fun and joyful and easy.
I think one of the biggest things that, gosh, I've taught so many people now, I call it parking angels. So whenever I need to park, all I do is I ask my angels for a parking spot. And it's uncanny how many people have done this. My husband's then become just a true believer. He's not, he's he has faith, but he's struggled a little bit with,
Mm.
really harnessing his own intuition. But now he's just a powerhouse now. But parking angels, when there is difficult parking to be found, I always get a spot. And always not only get a spot, but I usually get a spot right up front for where I want to go. And I think that, when we think about intuition, we think about, or a lot of people might think too, how can I win the lottery, or how can I get this really big thing? Yeah, it can work there, but it happens in all the small events throughout the day. It's getting that parking spot. It's knowing it's running a little bit late and then saying, oh gosh, please help me to get there safely, get there on time. And even if you are late, it ends up the person you're meeting is late. And so there are all these different serendipities or coincidences that occur that create this magical life. Me just, gosh, intuiting who to call or who to, if I've got something, if I need an answer, somebody will come to mind and I'll reach out to that person and just check in with them. And it just so happens during the course of the conversation, I found out that they have somebody that can talk to me that can take care of the question that I have or whatever need I have. That is what I think living a magical life, a life that's led by your intuition, affords you. It's not having this idea of I must control everything. I must take action, even even if
Yes.
my body's telling me not to take action.
Oh,
But
right.
just making that shift of surrendering, releasing, gosh, there's no more control. There's no more stress in that trying to control everything. It's just like full trust. I know the universe has my back. I know that whatever happens to me, there's a reason for it. And I think when you have that perspective, it just allows you to be more joyful, be more in your bliss, and allows you to have more fun in life, which I
Yeah.
get really excited about. I want to have fun in life. Life's too hard otherwise.
It's like a mystery, right? What will unfold now as opposed to when we're controlling things we think we already know.
Yes,
And I
yeah.
kind of get bored,
Yeah.
So learning that I don't have to know everything in advance has been so enlivening.
And especially for like the women leaders that I work with, there's a lot of times we don't have the answers. We're on the cutting edge. We don't have
Yeah.
data. We don't have analytics. We don't have things that we can look to say, okay, this is the decision I need to choose. But when you lean into your intuition, when you have become that clear vessel, you've released the stress, you know how to get calm, you know how to be curious, you know how to be connected. Those are the three
Mhm.
steps that I teach people.
Yeah.
When you embody those three steps, you don't need to know the answer. All you need to know is to trust in this moment. Okay, what's my next right step? And then
Mhm.
do that. And then pause. What's my next right step? And sometimes you might have to wait. You might have to wait a little while. You might have to wait a few days. But just holding that faith of, you know what, when timing is right, it's going to happen. And each day checking in, what's my next right step?
Mhm.
What am I to do today? I've helped sales professionals, especially those with territories, really change the way they do business. I've had, gosh, I don't know how many, I've lost track of how many people that were either on the chopping block or were just kind of average performers.
Mhm.
And when I teach them how to access their intuition, now they start off their days asking, which client needs to see me? Which customer do I need to call today?
Mhm.
Rather than running around like a chicken with their head caught off, wearing down all their energy, they're now embracing their intuition. Who do I need to see today? What do
Oh,
I
I
need to
love
say to
that.
that person so that I can meet their needs, provide value, make a sale, whatever the goal is? And, I don't know, like I said, all of the people that I've worked with have gone from either been on the chopping block or average performers
Mhm.
to making club. So president's club, vice
Mhm.
president's club, executives club in the same year simply
This is so
by
good.
using their intuition. It is so freaking powerful. And the best part about it is they're not stressed out. They have more energy to spend
Yes.
with their children, which is why people take sales jobs anyway, is so that they have a better work-life balance, so they can make money, but then also have a little bit more free
Yeah.
time. And gosh, changing the way that people use their intuition in that kind of environment, incredibly powerful and life-changing,
So
sustainable
good.
success.
I love that example of bringing intuition into a world where it's not typically being talked about, right? I work with so many coaches, consultants, like we kind of know that that's our magic. But when you can bring it into more of the practical, I mean, I remember back in corporate, I worked at Procter and Gamble and I was in product development and we had all these meetings, right? And it was like, how many of these meetings do we actually need to have? And I could imagine if people tuned in and went, okay, I really feel the energy is here. I mean, this is how we do it on our team. Ooh, I'm feeling some energy around this. We should meet, as opposed to like, we need to do it in a certain way.
Absolutely. There's this whole idea when I speak with people that are in the corporate space or in organizations, I talk about the energetic field. And this is applicable for salespeople as well, is that when you
Yes.
go into an office or when you are working with your team members, your intuition is open to the energetic field of what's going on.
Mhm.
Everybody has the skill. You know this when you've walked into a room and people have been arguing and you feel that tense
Yes.
energy or you feel that prickly energy. Or when you walk in on two people and who haven't, disclosed that they were having a sexual relationship, and you just feel like there's some energy between the two of them. We all know those feelings. We all can tap into the energetic field, but having that focus on what's present in the field right now. Is now the time to ask for the sale? Is now the time
Mhm.
where we're in a meeting, I'm feeling the energy is a little flat, or I'm feeling the
Mhm.
energy is a little ominous. What can I do to have an impact on the field to change it so that it can bring more life, more
Yes.
vitality, or to calm it down if it's too chaotic? We have such impact as individuals on our energetic field. And that's not even including, the intuition that we can use to help guide us along
Yes.
our paths.
You used calm, curious, and connected as guidance. Really, I would say it's guidance to access your intuition. Well, I kind of want to start by saying, this reaching for things you wouldn't normally reach for. Does your TED talk fit into that?
Yeah, so the TEDx talk that I did is how to stop obsessing over what other people are thinking. And so it's kind of a sliver of those limiting
Mhm.
beliefs, that negativity bias is where I focused in on the TEDx talk, which is something that's inherent in all of us. We all have
Mhm.
biases. And the more that we can bring awareness to those biases, the more we live a more conscious life. We're not just on autopilot making decisions. And so the be calm, be curious, be connected are three things that I talk about in my TEDx talk, but they're so applicable to any of the invisible stressors, the
Mm.
mental load, the decision fatigue, the regular stress that we feel, as well as any limiting beliefs or biases that we have. Because when we're calm, it automatically disengages our stress response. And when our stress response is activated because of any below the line emotions, so if you look at Dr. David Hawkins, he has a
Mhm.
map of consciousness with the different frequencies of emotion. The lower frequency emotions, things like anger, hopelessness, jealousy, resentment, worry, guilt, shame, all of those emotions have a low frequency. And when we're stressed, those emotions are
Yes.
activated. And so when we experience those emotions, they're actually a sign. It's kind of like a flare that's gone up in our body saying, hey, wait a minute, the stress response, system is activated. When it's activated, you're cutting off. You're actually, well, you're not cutting off, but you are not allowing your intuition to come through as clearly as possible. I like to think of it as kind of a
Yes.
prism of fear within us with all different kinds
Mm.
of facets. And so that intuition, that light
Mhm.
of that intuition comes up, but then it may spray off in different directions. And so we might not have the best guidance. We might not be completely clear on what the next step is. And this is a lot of time when people say, oh, yeah, I trusted my intuition that one time when I was really stressed out and I got the wrong answer and I did the wrong thing. No, your intuition is never wrong. Let's start there. It was, chances are you were in a stressed state and you were
Yeah.
experiencing some emotion that clouded your
Mhm.
intuition. And so your intuition was inviting you to take a step, but your logical mind stepped in because of that fear
Mhm.
and overrode what you were saying. That's why things didn't go the way you wanted to go. So that's why it's so important to be calm, to get calm first, because once you're
Mhm.
calm, you deactivate your stress response system, and then you can take that step of that neutral observer and be curious, taking a step back and saying, okay, what exactly is going on? Removing yourself from that emotion and asking questions that really help guide you. And then that invites you to be connected with your body. What's
Mhm.
the symptoms or the signals that your body is giving you that is providing you guidance. And once you start getting into that flow and you're in that process of being calm, being curious, being connected, that's when you ignite your intuition and you're
Mhm.
able to make the best decisions for you at any given time.
I love that. When you are working with your clients,
Yeah.
something you said in there sparked this question. So you talked about when you went to the Reiki master, the series of Reiki training and got reconnected with your body.
Mhm.
And that maybe that was there when you were young. And then after you didn't have your grandma to support you, is that kind of when it started to cut off?
It was actually, no, it was when I was having those waking visions, and it was completely kind of freaking me out being able to
Mm,
know within a half an hour what was going to happen. I remember the very first
mm,
one. I was in a parking lot with my boyfriend at the time and some of his buddies, and they were chatting, and I happened to lean back and look, and I saw this guy come down the street on a motorcycle, and he pulled in the driveway of the parking lot, and he slipped, like he came in too fast, and the motorcycle slipped out from underneath him, and the guy went rolling across the pavement. And so I saw this, and I immediately shook my boyfriend and said, "Oh my God, we got to help this guy." And my boyfriend turned, I turned, and nothing was there. And I was like, it's
mm,
the strangest thing. I just saw XYZ. And just then we turned back, and there was a guy driving a motorcycle down the street, pulling into the parking lot, coming in too fast. The motorcycle slipped out from underneath him. He went rolling across the parking lot, and he ended up being fine. But my boyfriend afterwards was like, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, "I don't know
wow.
how I knew that, but it completely freaked me out." And so I was having things like that happen, which led me to do stupid things like drink and try drugs, because it
To
was
numb it out.
numb it. Yeah, to numb it, because I didn't know what to
Mm,
do. But even in those moments, my intuition was active. And my intuition is
mhm,
actually what stopped me from moving forward and doing drugs. Is it came in and it said, "No, this is not the path for you. Don't take
mhm,
this path." And so that freaked me out, and, in a completely different way. But, it led me along the path where I was constantly trying to balance, what's normal?
mhm.
How do I control this? How do I keep this at bay? Whereas later in life, especially after I did my Reiki training, it was like, there is no keeping it at bay. This is just who you are, and embrace it. So.
So does that still happen, or have you learned to ask it not to?
Yeah, it was funny. My husband and I were having a lunch in San Francisco, and it happened at the restaurant. And I looked at him, and he was like, "Okay, what just happened?" And I was like, "Oh, well, this cruise ship. I just saw this cruise ship go by." And he's like, "Teresa, there's no cruise ship." And literally, as he said that, the cruise ship started to come by because we were right on the water. And I'm like, and he's like, "Gosh, you don't always tell me when these things happen." He goes, "It was wonderful for me to watch that
Mm,
actually happen." And so it doesn't happen as much. I think I'm much more in communication with my intuition and my guides on the other side that guide me. And when I need the information, it's there, but it's not
mhm.
something that freaks me out anymore.
It's not
So
like
that's good.
injecting into your
Yes.
daily life. That's a whole other level of managing your magic.
Yes.
So are there, well, tell me about when you're working with your clients,
Mhm.
how does it show up in that scenario? Like, are you seeing things play out in their life? Are you just reading their energy? Are you feeling their stuff in your body? Like, what's your experience of that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, by the way. I think for a lot of people, it depends on what you're asking me to do. So, like when people book a section with me, they can book it as a coaching session, they can book it as an energy wellness, or as an intuitive session. And you're going to get all three in all
Mhm.
three aspects. However, it's just kind of like which aspect is forward. So, for example, if you sign up for a coaching session, the coaching part will be forward. So it will be more focused on asking you more powerful questions,
Mhm.
getting you to raise your awareness. And as you're doing that, I'm using my intuition, I'm using my energy wellness to work with your energy so that I can identify those blocks and be able to ask you a question specific to that so that you can have the opportunity to clear and release that block. So that's how it kind of shows up in coaching. So
Mhm.
it makes coaching sessions incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
I used to do, 6-month contracts. I don't do that anymore because people,
Mhm.
have like 3 months with me and they don't need, coaching
Mhm.
anymore. So I do it just more as a one-off. And generally, people at the end of each session, they're making they're transforming in each session. And so I might work with
Yeah.
someone 3 to 5 times and it might be over a few months, but that's really all that they need. Now, if they come for an intuitive session, then I'm in there, looking at
Mhm.
everything, seeing what's getting in the way. It's very clear, it's very forward, but it's much more of me providing the information.
Mhm.
Coaching is me just asking questions and listening. Intuitive reading, it's
Mhm.
me providing all of the information to whatever questions you have. And with an energy wellness session, it's working with the energy, it's going in there,
Mhm.
making adjustments, releasing without doing a whole lot of talking. So it's a lot more relaxing for the energy wellness.
Mhm.
You end up feeling more excited, more empowered, lighter. You feel like you just got
Mhm.
in the shower and you've gotten out and you're all
Yeah.
cleaned up. You're no longer muddy, is how clients often talk to me about their energy wellness sessions. So it's really, what kind of experience
Mhm.
do you want to have? Or what are your goals? And I can help people decide that at the time. Yeah.
This feels like a good time to talk about your free gift with the
Oh,
energy wellness
I'm so
program that you're in.
excited.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so excited because this is something selfishly I've been doing for myself is working with my Karuna Reiki, my angelic Reiki. I have really powerful guides that I work with, and I've been using their energy because I'm channeling it with Reiki to for my own self to, calm stress, to keep things, all aligned. And going in
Mhm.
with between the political environment in the United States right now, between the holidays that are coming up, between the economy, everything that's going on, I thought, you know what, Teresa, this is something that needs to be offered to everyone. You're doing it already, offer it out there. And so what I'm
Yes.
doing is
Mm.
weekly. So on the first and third Saturdays and on the second and fourth Thursdays, I'm doing energy wellness on virtual sessions. So people can sign on at 8 a.m. Pacific on all of those days and then have access to an hour-long energy wellness session. So you just sign
Mm.
on, relax. It's kind of like getting a massage. You just kind of lay there and
Lay
let me do all the
down.
work. And I'm offering that for $77 a month, but I'm offering it free for anybody that wants to try it out for a month and see, how it feels for you,
Mm.
how it changes your life. I know once you do it, you're going to be like, oh, I need this in my life. But I want you at least to have a chance. So I've got a code that you can use and to sign up for it. And I would love to see you there.
And we'll put that in the show notes so that you have that link right over to the free gift along with the code. It sounds fabulous.
I'm so excited.
And it's interesting because I work with a lot of clients. My core program is called Shift the Field, and it's really helping people use their magic to help people transform. We look at, how does your magic work and what's the best way? What are the offers that make the most sense given how source wants to guide you? And I'm hearing, distinct, like you get to show up in these different ways in the different sessions. And I'm just curious how that is for you. Like, is that fun to have all the different
Oh my
hats?
gosh. Well, it's interesting because when I work with my leaders or even with women business owners, once we start taking stock of everything that we have within us, it naturally makes us go, oh my gosh, I have so much I can offer. I have
Mhm.
so much that I can bring to the table, because all these limiting beliefs get in our way and make us feel small, make us feel unworthy.
Mhm.
And once you embody, and you realize your gifts and you embody them, you show up in a completely different way. You show up with confidence and clarity. And for me, accessing all of my gifts, it's something that, even though I've been intuitive, I kind of only recently came out of the closet publicly about
Mm.
all of my gifts. And it was because my clients kept asking me, they would do coaching sessions, they'd find out how intuitive I was, based on the coaching. And then they started asking me for readings or energy wellness center sessions. And I realized, wow, I'm doing more of that than I'm actually doing coaching sessions. And, they were referring to me as the modern day oracle. Some of them just say, man, you're a powerhouse for, personal transformation. That's another thing that I got. And I realized, you know what? Until I am actually authentically me out in the world, I'm not even being as powerful as I am. So that actually sounds a lot like what the work you do with your women is, helping them to realize that when you are authentically aligned, who you are, both at work and in your personal life, just you all the time, that reduces so much friction, so much stress, and allows
Yes.
us to be the powerful beings that we're meant to be here on this earth. So yeah, it's for me, it's just like I feel almost, I feel bad slightly for not coming out of the closet, but I also know that I've been using my gifts the whole time. And so I don't feel badly. And then I remind
Oh.
myself, oh, feeling guilty, and that's stress response. And so there's a whole lot of managing I do. I'm not perfect.
We're here now.
Yes. But that's the thing, is that having that awareness and having the tools is what makes it possible. And it's what makes me be able to help so many women, because none of us are perfect. We're never going
Yeah.
to be perfect. That's not the goal. The goal is just being able to have the tools that you need to be able to overcome all the things that are getting in our way, so that we can be as empowered as possible and live lives that we love, that are purposeful, fulfilled, filled with joy and passion and purpose.
I love that you said you only recently came out of the closet, because I think there's going to be a lot of people nodding their heads around this who have professional careers or professional services businesses. Like, I meet a lot of, doctors and lawyers and, people who went that route, who then started to realize, well, gosh, people wouldn't need me in this way if they could actually, shift their belief system.
Yes.
And so they're like, do I bring, how do I deal with my new awareness? And I'm in this traditional field. And so for you, working with people in corporate, how did it start to come out? And like, how did you contain it? And then when did you actually start telling clients? There had to be a place where they started realizing you were more than just asking questions.
I think that because I'm able to see so much in people's energy,
Mhm.
and it's just because my intuition is so honed, I'm almost like a surgeon with my intuition. I can go in very specifically and say, no, this is the one place that we need to make an
Mhm.
adjustment. And because I know that with my inner knowing, I'm able to ask a question that speaks directly to that. And when people start hearing
Mhm.
me ask questions that are speaking directly to that pain
Yeah.
point, they can't help but go, how did you know that? There's no way that you could know to ask that question. And then the more they work with me and they realize how much transformation is happening, then it's almost like this review, this 5-star review of, oh my gosh, I've experienced this. What
Mm.
is this? And that naturally creates that opening. I think, when I work with clients and organizations, I'm much more talking about the energetic field. I'm talking about
Mhm.
urges. I'm talking about, the choice, my language choice is very particular for
Yeah.
whomever I'm speaking with, because the last thing I want to do is shut anyone off to what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
However, once they've had those experiences, once they're seeing themselves and being able to access their own intuition in a new way, one that isn't, fractured by that prism of fear, then they become more open and aware.
Yeah.
And then I can start, sharing a little bit more information. And I think that is what is so powerful for me, because I think intuitively, well, let me say it this way. I think the majority of us know that intuition is a thing. Like, philosophers, poets,
Mm.
famous people have been talking about this for
Yeah.
centuries, as far back as Plato has been talking about intuition. And so it's something that has always been in the ethos, but we have been so programmed, especially here in our Western society, to look to logic. And I think that things like Dr. Lisa Miller, who is a psychologist, and I think she's done some work in neuroscience as well. She did a joint study between Columbia and Yale about the impact of having a spiritual connection on patients that have severe depression. And so that study got released last year. Just here in
Mm.
August, the Yale School of Management came out with an article about intuition. 85% of CEOs admit to using intuition in their
Admit to
work.
it
Oh my gosh. And so
like
it's
it's
like,
a secret,
yes,
shameful thing.
exactly, exactly. And so I think that's one of the things with studies. I mean, we know as women, our health hasn't necessarily been studied because there have been male scientists and they've had their male purview, and they look to male, people to study and research. And as the movement has changed, there's been more women that have moved into the scientific and research space. They started focusing on studies that actually are starting to prove what we've always known. And I think that that has been just an evolution that is, needed to happen, but
Mm.
it's happening. And so now we can point to studies. I can point to that study of Columbia and Yale. I can point to this article from Yale School of Management. I can look to all these Ivy League institutions that are coming forward, sharing this information and saying, yeah, now it's legitimate.
Yes.
So now I can go to people who might not be open, and I can have conversations about these materials. And then once they have that bridge, once I've created that connection, generally they start to open up, especially if
Mhm.
they've always known that they've had intuition or they've known someone with intuition, and then they get
Mm.
curious. But it is a process, it is an evolvement. But I think that's what's happening in our world, is this consciousness is growing and people are becoming more aware all the time.
Thank goodness, right?
Thank God. Yes.
Well, I know I feel this interview is going to air before your program that you have coming up too. So if you want to say a couple words about how you help people access their intuition, that would be awesome.
Thank you. So I have a beginning intuitive and energy class. It's an 8-week class. And what it does is it teaches you how to meditate in a way that helps you access your psychic abilities, your intuitive gifts. And a big part of it is really helping you to learn how to relax your stress response.
Mm.
And once you do that, then I teach you tools to be able to access your own inner knowing so that in your life, you can use your intuition and get the results that all of my other
Yeah.
clients are getting, from my sales professionals to my CEOs, my CFOs, as well as the women in business that I help. There's so much information, whether it's you're looking to lose
Yeah.
weight and you want to use your intuition to know what foods your body needs. Your intuition can help you with that. If you're low on a certain
Mm.
supplement, I know for me, there was a point in time where I was running low on magnesium, and it was during COVID. So it wasn't like you could just go to the doctor and get a blood test. And I asked my intuition, what does my body need? And my body was telling me things like sweet potatoes and take an Epsom salt bath. And once I realized what my body was doing and I realized the common denominator, I realized it was magnesium. Well, then I can talk to my
Mm.
doctor and figure out, how do I supplement beyond food in order
Yeah.
to get it up? And when I got the labs done, yeah, my magnesium level was low. And so my body knew. And it's all about being able to
Mhm.
ask the right questions and then be able to act on that information. And so
Yeah.
the beginning intuition class, it starts on October 9th. It's on Wednesday evenings, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8
Hmm.
p.m. Eastern. But you learn how to access your intuition. If for some reason this airs after August 9th, but it's within that first week, you can still join and just watch the replay of the first session and jump in. But otherwise, just connect with me on Instagram and follow me because I'll note put out there whenever I've got the next class that's starting up.
Yeah. And they can grab that month in the energy program, get to know you and get
Absolutely.
on
That's
your
what I
list.
highly
Yeah.
recommend. Yeah, do the energy wellness because, if you're someone who's maybe thinking, I don't know if I really need this. I have access to some of my intuition. The energy
Mhm.
wellness might be all you need is just being able to get on a weekly basis, get your body accustomed to calming down and getting relaxed on a regular basis. And that might be all you
Mhm.
need. But if you get in there and you realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I need a little bit more support, there are other ways
Yeah.
that I can help.
I think we should study this as a regular, course. Study ourselves. So,
Yes, yes. We don't come with an instruction manual, but hey, guess
no.
what? We kind of do. It's just a virtual online manual that's inside of us that we need to learn how to access.
That no one
But
tells us about.
nobody
That's
tells us about it.
that's a good segue to my parting question, which is I'm imagining this like, in people's AirPods in their ears, reaching people all over who are maybe like the weird one in their family. And maybe no one around them is making intuitive decisions. Maybe they're all in the matrix, so to
Mhm.
speak. What message would you have for someone who's in that spot?
Oh, well, number one, you are not alone. I've been there. So many people have been there. And the thing that I would want you to know is there are a lot more people out there that believe in intuition that they
Mm,
just don't talk about it. Because if you're not comfortable
mm,
talking about it with your group of people who love you and support you, you got to know that there are other people out there that feel the same as you. And it's not important that you go out there and become a mouthpiece to share about intuition. I mean, that's my job. That's your job, Darla, is to get
mhm.
out there and to raise
Yeah.
awareness. However, just take this information and use it yourself. I mean,
Mhm.
just doing that, what Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world, be the change to access your own intuitive guidance. And when you do
Mm,
that, you're going to be in a much better place. It's like taking the oxygen mask
mm,
on the plane and putting it on first. Once you do that and you are connected, then you can help everyone else around you. And I think that is where this conscious evolution is happening is so many of us are waking up to the fact that we have these gifts, we need to use these gifts, and that our role is really to support others in whatever way, whether it's big or small.
Yeah.
Whether you show up in a meeting and all you say is, hey, you know what? I'm feeling like the energy's kind of flat in here. How about everybody stand up and we, shake our fingers or we do a jumping jack or do something to kind of bring some more energy to this
Yes.
meeting? Having the confidence to be able to do that because you sense it, you shift the energy, and then watch what happens. I think even if you do that,
That's so good.
people are going to come up to you afterwards and this has happened with clients. They report back to me that yeah, people came up to me afterwards and said, oh, thank God you saved that meeting. I thought I was going to fall asleep. I thought I was going to, I was already wasn't even paying attention, and you did that and it brought my attention back and we were actually able to accomplish something, because that's the whole
Yeah.
role of these meetings, is to be able to accomplish an agenda item. So being able to just make a
Mm.
small shift like that can make all the difference in the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. So exciting to be
This
here
was
with you,
so
Darla.
fun. Thank you for what you do in the world and who you are and the generous gift. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Woohoo. Have fun, everyone.